Welcome, fellow wine lovers. This is the Wine Ghost podcast. I'm Mate Bosch, a certified sommelier and seeker of hidden stories behind the most mysterious drink in history. For more information or direct contact, please look for the Wine Ghost on Instagram and Facebook. But now, please grab a glass, get comfortable, and listen to how the day's ghosts get out of the bottle. The Pflüger winery is located in the Pfalz region of Germany, where the Pflüger family has been taking care of their precious vineyards around Bad Dürkheim for centuries now. They were proponents of nourishing their treasured land in the most sustainable methods possible and became organic growers in the mid-80s already, then certified biodynamic from the vintage 2008. The friendly wine wizard Alex has talked about the climate in the Pfalz region and how it's been changing in recent years, about the significance of biodynamic farming and low-intervention winemaking. He also shared his belief about minerality in wine and proved, with an imposing tasting line, why you should look for exceptional Rieslings in his portfolio too. We also filmed the last part of our conversation and most of the tasting, so check out the video on IGTV in Instagram or in YouTube. But now, grab that favorite glass of yours and listen to the wizard. Oh. Prost.
Prost. Prost.
Wow, beautiful beginning for the podcast. So, thank you for taking the time. And we are sitting here in the Pflüger winery, here in the beautiful weather with a glass of Riesling Buntseinstein 2019 vintage. And really thanks for the welcoming and welcome to the show, sir. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm fine. I must say I really enjoy the weather. You were talking about the weather, and it's nice that the temperatures are picking up. It's nice that we survived the frost nights. We really enjoyed a nice rain beginning of this week. 35 liters per square meter. We really needed that. And it looks very promising outside. So that is definitely, for me, very important. So I'm in a good mood, actually.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I can see this. And because the recording is May 2nd, 16th is the date today?
Yeah.
16th, yeah. And yesterday we came from Württemberg and there was a little bit of frost damage there. And so you could avoid it and no frost damage.
We have no frost damage this year. I mean, that's always the danger. I mean, we can definitely talk a little bit about climate changing as well and how it affects us. So everything starts earlier, and let's say the period of time where we can be affected by frost nights is definitely longer than it was, let's say, 20-25 years ago, because the vegetation, the vineyard starts already beginning of April. And when I talked to my grandfather, he said vineyard never started before mid of April. So we have 2 more weeks where we can have frost nights. But today it's the 16th of May. And so normally we always have the vineyard is green, and it's very dangerous. We also had full moon, so temperatures at this time of the year can go down to -2, -3 degrees, and that's definitely dangerous. Yeah, but the last frost we had here was in 2017, but it was not a lot of damage. I remember 2011, one of my first vintages here on the estate. Everything looked promising, and then we had 2 cold nights, and 25% of our production was affected and was gone within these 2 nights. So it's always this is nature, and something that we cannot avoid. Yeah.
And maybe just to talk generally about Pfalz and the microclimate here, maybe around Bad Dürkheim and your vineyard area, and how is the temperature generally or the climate like?
I would definitely say that we have a Mediterranean climate. So that means, of course, in wintertime we can have some snow, but it's very, very rare. Temperatures going down to -5, -6 degrees during wintertime. So it's cold, but it's not super frosty.
Yeah.
I mean, in spring and summer, we have quite high temperatures. Especially in June, July, August, we can have temperatures 30, 35 degrees over weeks. So it's really warm. And then the rain, it's a bit a problem for us the last 10, 12 years because we don't get enough rain. Especially this part of Pfalz, around Bad Dürkheim, Deidesheim, Forst. We have 500 millimeters of rain per year, which is not a lot. If you go further south, direction France, Alsace, so the southern part of Pfalz, they have 650 to 700. And if you go again further south to Baden, Freiburg, this area, they can have 700 and more. So this is one of the driest areas in whole Germany.
And why is that?
I mean, we have behind us, we have the Palatine Forest, which is actually connected to the Vosges Mountains in Alsace. So it's one of the largest forest areas in Germany. And it's kind of a rain shadow, you know. So not far from here, if you drive 20 minutes or 15 minutes east, you will end up in an area called Rhein-Neckar region with Mannheim, Ludwigshafen, so bigger cities, and they have already 100 millimeters more rain. You know, it's only 20 kilometers from here, but this area is protected from the forest. It's good and bad, you know, because we don't get much rain. But on the other hand, this forest really regulates our climate. So we're still able to produce elegant white and red wines. Because in the night, we're talking about nights, the temperature can really drop. And that is regulated by the forest. So we have warm days and we have cold nights. So it's a good ripening during the day. But you know that if you have warm nights, the acidity can drop. And if you have cold nights, the acidity stays in the wines. And that brings us this freshness and crispiness. So it's I think it's a very interesting microclimate in that area.
Yeah, true. And it's one of the warmest in Germany after Baden, right?
Right. Yeah.
But in terms of, maybe if you can just talk about the soil, because we also saw a lot of sandstein or sandstone buildings here also in Bad Dürkheim. So this is the primary rock here, would you say?
Yes. The main soil type is sandstones, variation of sandstones. I mean, we're drinking Riesling Buntsandstein. This is actually a blend of vineyards growing on different vineyard sites, but the base is the same soil type, Buntsandstein. It means colored sandstones. So we have mainly red and yellow sandstones. That's the main terroir. And it leads to exactly that style or that type of wine. Very, very fresh, very crispy, fruit driven. That's exactly describes this wine style. And that makes Pfalz as an area so, so popular, because we produce wines like that, and that's something people really enjoy. But next to sandstones, we do have a very interesting terroir, limestone and clay. So if you go to the neighbor village, Umstein, there you will find mainly deeper soils, rich soils, a lot of kalkstones, limestone, clay. And all our classified vineyards, Premier Cru or Grand Cru vineyards, or most part of them are located on these vineyard sites. So if you want, we can say that with the sandstone terroirs, we produce the daily wine, you know, for everybody. But if you're looking for more distinctive, more characterful wines, we also have that, but it comes from different soil types.
But we just tried this wine. It's a 2019 vintage. And can you talk about this vintage maybe, and how does it differ from maybe 18 and 17?
So 18 and 19 are quite similar, I would say. Both vintages have been very, very warm and dry. So we actually have the same amount of rain in 18 and in 19. But the difference is that we had rain in 2018, mainly in spring.
Okay.
And that was it. So the vineyards were really suffering from dryness in August, September, in combination with quite a high quantity. So 2018, we had a really high yield. We were really not prepared for that. Everybody was really surprised about the quantity of grapes and wine from 2018. So in 19, same temperatures, really high and dry, but the rain was, we also had rain in July and August and a bit of rain in September. And we had only maybe 50 or 60% from the quantity that we had in 18. So the difference is definitely the texture, the concentration, also the fruit, and the aroma that you get from the wines. So my favorite vintage, or what I prefer, is definitely 19. The wines are more interesting.
Yeah, but also like very rich. Like I had the first sip maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes ago, but I can still feel this, but more citrusy flavors. I wouldn't say it's more like this yellow and not into this orange, but really ripe citrusy flavors and really organic acidity. Yeah. But also this white flowering nose is also there. So this maybe acacia and maybe some chamomile. So it's really, but fruity, but kind of fresh acidity. So it's really an easy to enjoy and understand wine, but it has its complexity and layers. And fruity aftertaste, so not acidic.
Exactly. I mean, this is a wine how I like to drink my wines. It's my style. And again, this is a very low intervention winemaking. And the secret, everybody's asking me, what's the secret of your wines? Because you're not using aroma yeast, you don't work with enzymes. What's the secret? And my answer is the secret lies in the vineyard. And not only in the vineyard, it's also the combination of the vineyards. So my work or my motivation every year is to let every vineyard develop its own personality in combination with terroir and vintage. And then we try to find the best moment to pick these grapes. We ferment them separately. That's very important. So later we can have a look in the cellar. So we of course we have bigger tanks, but we don't use them for fermentation. We use them for blends. And the fermentation tanks are small, very small, sometimes only 500 liters. But if we feel that it's worth to do a selection from one vineyard, only 500 liters, then we do it. And later these 500 liters in the total blend, maybe it's only 1% or maybe 0.5%, but it can help to bring this little twist.
Yeah, that's the knowledge behind the assemblage, or?
Exactly. Assemblage is very important. I worked for a while in the south of France, near Montpellier, and of course, I mean, they would not like if I say they don't have vineyards or terroir. Of course, there is terroir, but the main thing is blends, and the main thing is bringing also grape varietals together. And this is something they're professional when it comes to that, and I learned a lot when I was there.
I can imagine. Where were you exactly?
It was a winery called Chateau de Langeron. Grès de Montpellier was the appellation, 15 minutes from Montpellier.
And why exactly did you go there?
That was actually right after my studies, and I needed a bit of deconnection from this area, from this winery, from my parents, and from all the history that we had. So I needed definitely a new horizon in a way. And I thought, okay, I want to stay in Europe because I like the idea of most of the European wineries. So they produce wines. They from or maybe how to explain that. So they don't see the customer, and then they produce the wine back to the vineyard. They have a vineyard, they produce wine, and then they look for customers. That's maybe not super professional, and maybe if you go the other way, like most of the new world wineries do, it's maybe easier. It's maybe a better or better success. I don't know, but I always preferred the idea that let's do something from the vineyards and then produce a wine and then see who will like that. So I wanted to stay in Europe because of that philosophy, but I definitely wanted to go to France. Everybody goes to Burgundy, and I wanted to go somewhere else in a very dynamic region, and Languedoc-Roussillon is very dynamic. They have nothing to lose. It feels like, or they see themselves as an area where a lot of cheap wines are produced. But on the other hand, there's a lot of wineries, they take it really serious. They want to produce something special. They want to develop the area. So very dynamic. And that was something that I was interested in at this time.
I also asked you because we sit in this kind of wine cathedral, if I may say so. And I asked you earlier, because I saw a lot of Burgundian bottles here, and you said this is maybe your favorite one, or maybe one of your favorite regions, right?
Yeah, Burgundy is when we're talking about the climate, is closer to us. I always say that maybe we have the climate today that Burgundy had 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say if we're talking about the climate, Burgundy is closer to us than Languedoc, Roussillon. And of course, I mean, I've been to Burgundy a couple of times, and I also worked in the Mâconnais area right in the beginning of my wine career. Again, that was very inspiring. So I never lost contact to Burgundy, and I probably never will. It's an area that I really like for a couple of things. First of all, the wines. I like Pinot, I like Chardonnay, I like that style of wine. I also enjoy the wines from the Beaujolais area. So this elegance and the delicate wines that come from there, I really enjoy that. On the other side, I really have a lot of respect for this area because they never left where they come from. You know, so this area definitely has a lot of authenticity, while here in Germany, that's a bit of a problem in some areas. You know, we always think that we can produce everything, and we sometimes I feel that we forgot that we have to create an identity. I would say Mosel still has this identity, but Pfalz or Rheinhessen, sometimes it's difficult to say what's your identity. If you go to Burgundy, it's Pinot and Chardonnay. If you go to Champagne, that's very extreme. It's sparkling wines, it's Champagne. If you go to the Loire Valley, you have definitely Sauvignon Blanc, mainly. So that's what I always liked about the French areas. They always have focus, identity. And so for that reason, I have a lot of respect for these areas.
So maybe just to talk about this, what you want to reflect from your vineyard size, because you have also, or you converted your vineyards also to biodynamic farming or biodynamic farming methods, and since 2008, right?
Yeah, so my father actually started in 1985, working organic, and together from 2001, 2002 on, we started to apply also biodynamic principles on the winery, and in 2008 we got certified by Demeter.
And what was the main motivation behind it?
Again, I would say my father had slightly a different motivation than I have today. So you have to imagine the 70s or the 80s. I always call it the dark century of German wine.
Okay.
Because everybody was focusing on quantity, and it was a lot of mass production. The wines had no character. If you look at the vineyards at this time, a lot of monoculture, a lot of industrial fertilizer, herbicides. So it was really like only production facilities. And my father, I mean, also born on the winery his whole life. He spent in the vineyards or in agriculture. Same my grandfather. So we always had this connection to our farm and to our land. And at some point we felt like this something is wrong at this point. Something is going in the wrong direction. So he felt from inside that instinctively that he has to change something, and his idea was to create more biodiversity. His idea was to go back to natural, to a more natural approach, because he wanted to save the quality, the land. For the following generations. He saw that we had a lot of problems with erosion. We had a lot of problems with grape diseases, and they were more intense than in the beginning of the 20th century. So he felt that the industrialization of the vineyards was something that led to the wrong direction. So he started to work organic because of that. He felt this is it's the better way. It's a more sustainable way. He realized that the qualities after 2-3 years, the qualities came back. So the wines were better, really better than before.
And how would you define it? Sorry to interrupt, but what is better?
Yeah, I mean, we're drinking 2019 now. And we enjoy this wine, for him it was very important that this wine is also enjoyable in 2, 3, or 4 years. So we're talking about aging, how wines age, and he experienced that with conventional farming, the wines became very
flat.
So flat. So they lost the tension, and they were never that interesting than they were before. So aging process, one thing, and the other side, and it's the whole balance, the whole harmony. Talking about acidity in the wine. I mean, of course, if you do an analysis and you see 7.5 gram acidity, tells you nothing, you know, but you have to taste this acidity. And he felt that 7.5 gram per liter acidity from a conventional wine tasted much more sharper and more aggressive than 7.5 gram acidity in a organic farmed wine. And I really agree. That's something that we experience every year, especially in vintages like 10, 13, 16, colder vintages with higher acidity. We never touch the acidity. So there's no de-acidification, and sometimes we have 10 and more, but it doesn't feel like that. The wines have energy, they have so much body. They can really create this balance in the wine,
and also maybe extraction, right? Like I feel that it's if I drink wines from organic or biodynamic vineyards, I mostly feel more extraction and more mouthfeel, so to say. So it's not like, it's something like if you buy a tomato in the supermarket, it maybe looks nice, and maybe you eat it, or for if you are lucky, for 1 or 2 seconds you have some taste of a tomato, but then it's gone, and it's like a balloon.
Exactly.
But then with the wine, it's really, you can feel that it's. Sometimes I also ask some winemakers if they look at the data like dry extract in the wines, because sometimes I think it would be interesting to look at this data, like what kind of minerals, maybe potassium or this kind of stuff is in the wine, because I would suggest, or I encourage I would encourage to look at this data because I'm not a winemaker, but I have to quantify somehow maybe what I feel like that's maybe there.
No, but people do that. I mean, they quantify and they have a look what's the difference between organic, biodynamic, and conventional wines. Talking about the acidity, talking about the extracts, the minerals, etc. And sometimes you see differences, sometimes not. Because the secret to me is not the amount of acidity, etc. It's how all these ingredients interact with each other. It's the same with people. Let's say you can't judge someone if you look at him only when he's alone. It's very important to also to see how he or she interacts in a group and what's happening. And so this is a living product, and interaction is very important.
And maybe just talk about the label, because I think it refers to the biodynamic winemaking as well, right? So I can see a man with a horse.
It's actually me. It's actually me with the horse. The label is relatively new. We changed our label in 2010. Before that, we had a very German, old school, traditional label. A lot of explanations, a lot of science and stuff. So my idea was the label should be very clean, clear. It should tell you something, but the wine can be complex, not the label. So we changed that, and our last name Pflüger means the plowman, the plower. So we decided to play with that and to put the plowman on the label. And it's now 5 years ago when we really worked with a horse in one of our vineyards. We have a terrace vineyard, Michelsberg. It's right behind the house, and it's 100% handwork. But 5 years ago, we were able to produce. We were able to work for 1.5 seasons with the horse. It was not our horse. We rented the horse, but it was great. It was someone here in the village, and he offered us that he can help us with horse farming, and to me that was great. I immediately said yes, please. Come over. Let's see how we can do that. And while we were farming with the horse, we took some pictures, and that's part of our design.
But I think really reflects the winemaking and philosophy. So
exactly, and it's one thing. So the label tells a story. It's kind of eye-catching, I would say. It's it looks nice, and these two things have to come together.
And so, what are the preparations, or what are the biodynamic winemaking or farming methods?
So to me, the base is always the organic farming. This is where we come from. So we avoid monoculture. That means we work with a lot of green cover crops, herbs, different herbs. We have our own mixture now. So we bring these cover crops to our soils every year. So it's a new semen every year, and that creates biodiversity. That's very, very important. We also respect the environment. So if we have trees, bushes, if we have sandstone walls, all this is part of the terroir, I would say. So we respect that and we keep that. We plant new trees, we plant new, how's that called, biodiversity hotspots. So also we try to attract birds or other animals that belong to this area. So that's one of the, and here we're talking already about let's say a biodynamic approach, because biodynamic farming, it means that, to me, you can enhance the connection between your product, so the wine, and the environment, or terroir, or the terrain, whatever you call it. where this wine is grown. So it's like you as a person, your environment, the people that surround you, they shape you.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the wine. And the biodynamic farming really helps to bring these things together. We're talking again about interaction. So especially the preparation 500, which is the preparation for the soil. A lot of people say, yeah, it increases the capacity of the soil to save the water in the soil. It helps to bring nutrition to the soil, etc., which is all true. But to me, it also helps to establish a more intense connection between the plant and the soil. So that's the main thing with the 500. And talking about the 501, the preparation that we apply in spring and summer, this is more, let's say, fruit related. So it definitely helps to balance processes in the plant. It intenses the fruit character. It harmonizes a lot. That's another thing. If we have, let's say, a very dry period or very warm, hot weather, and sometimes the vineyards, they suffer, and 501 really helps to fresh them up, and to balance this situation. So to me, the 500 really intenses the relation between plant and terroir, and the 501 makes the vineyard more resilient, maybe more able to handle stress situations. And this combination establishes a system that is very stable, and in combination with the biodiversity that we have, it creates an area where the vines, the vineyard, can grow in its best shape. And also for us, it's great to work in these spots.
And did you also notice that these wines are more resilient to different, like powdery mildew or?
Yes, yeah, definitely, I can confirm that. I mean, the last years, we never had that intense pressure on grape diseases. But I would definitely agree that the vineyards are more resilient to grape diseases as well. Of course, we have to support. You know, we apply sulfur and copper, and some plant extractions. We try to support our vineyards and not to master our vineyards. And this is, by the way, also how we see our relations with our customers or with the people that we working with or that we welcome here for tastings, etc., or interviews. I don't feel that I have to tell you how the wine industry has to be. It's just my opinion. It's what we experienced, and so we're open-minded to new ideas and new suggestions. Yeah, this is how we live, and this is how we want our vineyards. Express yourself, because only if you do that, the best will come out.
Yeah, true. And also, first, it maybe sounds counterintuitive that, so to say, spraying would have to protect the plants, but then if the vintages or the weather is maybe worse than you expected, then the vines could suffer really more damage than a biodynamic one without the spraying. First it sounds counterintuitive, but it in the long run it's really like maybe with the human, right? It's strengthen the immune system somehow of the plant, or that's what you aim for with this somehow.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have to ask why do we have to spray? Why do we have to do plant protection? What's the reason? is it because, or maybe is it because the vines are weak, and then we have to ask why. What's the reason? And so our vineyards, as I said, they grow in an environment that suits them, biodiverse. So of course they are more resilient. They are stronger. It's the same with us, you know. If someone needs to take medicine all the time, something's wrong. Maybe he should think about his life. You know, something's wrong with his life probably.
Just as your father did with the vineyard, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I mean, this is something sometimes you can't describe. This is something that you feel. And another thing that I really enjoy with biodynamic farming is that you are allowed to feel as well in the vineyard. It's not like in conventional farming. In January or March, the big chemical companies, they send you a plan how to work in the vineyard this year without knowing what's going to happen this year. So you're really following a plan, more or less. In Germany, we say Schema F.
Okay.
Have you heard about that?
No, I don't.
Schema F means you just copy and paste all the time.
Okay.
You don't.
Why F?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Schema F. I don't know where it comes from.
Okay.
But it's a saying for doing the same all the time without taking
Thinking.
care and without looking what's really needed at the moment. And I must say it's a big advantage that our family has been in the winery for more than 200 years now. Not always like wine producers, but always wine growers, also farmers. So sometimes I feel that we have it inside of us, that we have this connection with our land. We know our land. Some of the vineyards are in the family for more than 100 years. So we know what's happening there.
So maybe let's talk about your specific vineyards and maybe about your GG vines and
of course,
if you could, and also maybe Michelsberg, which is right behind us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is this a little chapel or what is this?
Chapel. Yeah. It's St. Michael's Chapel.
Okay.
It's quite old. Let's say the vineyard side is quite old. We know that already in the Middle Ages, people produced wines from this vineyard side. So it's really old. I mean, you have to know that the Romans brought wine to Germany 2,000 years ago. And so step by step, a wine culture was established. And in the Middle Ages, we have at least one very important abbey that took care of the vineyards while the rest of Germany was involved in wars with Russia and France and Italy. So, I mean, there were a lot of wars in the 17th, 18th century with Napoleon, etc. So there was a lot of things going on. And the abbeys, they really took care of the vineyards here, and they saved the wine culture. And you know that wine always was very religious, especially in the Middle Ages. This vineyard was one of the holy places, and maybe you have heard about this. How is that called? Pilgrims. They walk down to Santiago de Compostela. It's the St. Jacob's, St. Jake's Pilgrim's Way. And Michelsberg was one stop on that way. I mean, I think there's a main way or main route, but there are some places that you can also go. And Michelsberg was one stop. And there's a very old stone cross on top of that hill. With this shelf, the St. Jake's shelf, as a sign that people passed by here and stopped by and had a little rest.
Nice. And in terms of so it's south facing, right?
Yes, yeah.
So it's more riper flavors come out of the wines in general, or how would you describe?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Michelsberg is one of the very few vineyards that are facing 100% south in Pfalz, as we are located next to the forests and to the Rhine Valley. Most of the vineyard sites are facing east or west.
Okay.
You have some vineyards facing south, but that's rare. And the special thing with Michelsberg is, of course, it's a very warm terroir. You're facing south, so you get a lot of sun, a lot of ripe flavors. And you could imagine that also the acidity in that wine is a bit lower. But the big advantage is that we have, especially in the night, we have winds coming from the forest. And so the vineyard can cool down a little bit during the night. And again, that saves the acidity. So it's a really exciting combination of very ripe and rich Riesling flavors. But on the other hand, you have this nice acidity. So that's really interesting.
And then another one is Herrenberg, right?
Yes.
But that's also southeast facing.
Right. Yeah. Herrenberg is another Grand Cru site. So Michelsberg, by the way, is the only Grand Cru site here in Bad Dürkheim.
Okay.
And Herrenberg is one of the two Grand Cru sites in Ungstein. Different microclimate. Also, the soil is richer. I told you limestone and clay. And the microclimate is definitely warmer. So you don't have the winds, you don't have the forest. It's very warm also during the night.
Then I guess it's more for reds, or?
Yes, it's more. It would be good for reds. You don't find a lot of vineyards planted with red wine varietals. We did that now. We have Pinot Noir now, but of course, from the tradition, we still have a lot of Riesling. Yeah, but it's more Burgundian style in Riesling, so it's more powerful.
And Spielberg?
Spielberg is the backside of Michelsberg.
Okay.
So it's just the neighbor vineyard. And in terms of soil, it's similar. I would say you already get some limestone and clay, but it's also a mixture between sandstones. But it's facing west, so direction the forest. So it's slightly colder.
Okay.
Slightly colder. And to me, I mean, we tasted the Buntsandstein now. To me, Spielberg is it's the same style. Okay. It's a very, very typical Riesling quality with a lot of tropical fruit and a lot of crispiness.
And that was an estate wine, right?
That's our entry level. That's our estate wine.
And so you also have you differentiated with your wines also in terms of colors, right? With the capsule and...
Yeah, we have 3 quality levels actually. Estate wines. Sometimes I call them the business card wines. Okay. They're very important because the price quality relation is good. So a lot of people know us or taste wines from us by drinking our estate wines. So they're very important. It's the first impression. Yeah. And there's not a second chance for the first impression. So important wines for us. And then we have the village, or we also call them the tradition wines. These wines are coming from only classified terroirs, older vineyards, made in very traditional style. So we use the big oak barrel and of course spontaneous fermentation. So these wines give you already an impression of our single vineyards, but still have this easy drinking approach from our estate wines. So it's a nice segment, I would say. And then our top wines are coming from classified vineyards, Grand Cru or Premier Cru.
And then those have gold green capsules, right? And the village wines have
gold.
They have gold.
They have gold capsules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Nice. But it's good to know if you go to a wine store. I think it's good to differentiate. Yeah, because if I read your labels, they don't, as you said, it's also very minimalistic.
Yeah.
It's not like a typical German label. So
no, it's not.
It helps if you know the colors as well. So I don't know. Can we taste maybe something from the village? Or,
yeah, of course.
Or what you feel like?
I mean, we just had a Riesling. Maybe I show you 2-3 different Rieslings, 2 more Rieslings, and then we do have some Weißburgunder, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir, of course. We should not forget about Pinot Noir, which is now more than 30% of our production.
Wow.
So it's really increasing.
So you're really going into this Burgundian direction.
We try. Again, I think the terroir is perfect.
Yeah.
The style we're producing is nice, and the timing is right as well. Pinot Noir from Germany, which is, by the way, the 3rd country in the world producing Pinot Noir. So it's important, and at the moment we're attacking our export markets with Pinot Noir, and it's super nice, appreciated.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Make a video about it.
So yeah, I think we have a plan. Okay. I have to stop this for a second. Styles to different terroirs. Michelsberg is very warm, facing south, and the wine is very concentrated. While Fuchsmantel is a bit higher up, so we are at 280 meters above sea level. So the ripening is later. And then surrounded by the forest, so you can imagine the microclimate is slightly colder. So here we're more on the acidity side, citrus notes. It's a bit lighter, and Michelsberg again, it's concentrated. So it's quite interesting to see these 2 different wines.
Oh, cool. Okay. So now we are back with the wine tasting. So now we are with the village wines.
Yeah, now we are with the single vineyards.
Single vineyards already.
We will taste some village or tradition wines with the reds. And I decided to show you 2 different Rieslings from 2 different vineyard sites. Fuchsmantel, which is classified as a Premier Cru. We're tasting this wine now, and the next wine will be Michelsberg, which is a Grand Cru site.
That's nice. And how do you decide actually which is it tradition? So this is a Grand Cru and this is a Premier Cru, or?
The classification is close to 200 years old. The original name is Königlich Preußische Bodenbewertung.
Okay.
And it dates back to the beginning of the 19th century. And this classification is still valid today, and it's open to every producer. I mean, you've probably heard about the VDP, Verein Deutscher Prädikatsweingüter, and they started to work after this classification, I think already in the 90s.
Okay.
So today, people are coming more and more back to this classification of terroir. And of course, if you own vineyards in classified vineyard sites, you can use this classification. And it makes sense for us. I have never been a big fan of Kabinett, Spätlese, Auslese, etc. It still confuses me sometimes. I think it's perfect for the Mosel area, talking about sweet wine production, etc. That works. But for us in our area, with all these different terroirs and with the, let's say, mainly dry wines that we produce, for us, a classification after vineyard makes much more sense.
Okay, so let's try it. Thanks, Prost.
Cheers. Yeah, as I said before, Fuchsmantel is a cool climate. It's 280 meters above sea level, surrounded by the forest. So one of the coolest or coldest spots, which means that the ripening is always a bit later. We always have a good and very ripe acidity, and it's a bit more exotic, a lot of citrus flavors. We always ferment this wine in stainless steel. Of course, it's a spontaneous fermentation, but stainless steel brings a wine style that is slightly more reductive, which kind of underlines the character of the wine.
A lot of esters already in the nose. And really citric, like almost limey, this white grapefruit. And
exactly.
But also some underlying, maybe some mintiness. So it's really refreshing already on the nose.
Absolutely refreshing. You can finish the bottle. It's not a wine that that is too over concentrated or too heavy on alcohol. It's super animating, and we have a tradition on Christmas. We always prepare, like in Switzerland, cheese fondue. With, I mean, the fatty cheese, you know, and you can drink this Fuchsmantel like water. It really catches up with the cheese, with the fattiness of the cheese, and it's so fun. We really enjoy the wine. So again, that's another thing that, of course, you can drink Riesling with cheese, and especially with cheese fondue or raclette, things like that. You need a Riesling with a good acidity, ripe acidity, and I think you're well off with Fuchsmantel.
Yeah, it has it, but it's also not just. I mean, it's mostly linear. I think, and if you would compare it with the estate wine, so it's really straightforward wine. And not that full-bodied, but has a really long aftertaste and really ripe acidity. So I don't get these greeny flavors. It's really on spot.
And it's of course it's not a wine for beginners. It's not a wine that maybe pleases everybody because of the acidity, because of this edges, character. Call it however you like. So there is something that is special, and that, let's say, is the big difference between our estate wines. They please a lot of people, and they really enjoy that. But our single vineyards, they are a bit more special. And you have to select your taste.
True, and finds the corners in my mouth. I can feel that it's
And also talking to a sommelier, I mean, here we are on a level of quality where we definitely need food. Our estate wines, you can drink them by themselves
on the terrace.
But the single vineyards, I think they're made to combine them with food.
And cheese is not a bad idea, but also with maybe white cheeses. So maybe not this. But maybe what is Ziegenkäse? It's goat cheese, this kind of.
I mean, fish is always you can't be wrong with fish. We had last week, I think we had, how is that called, turbot, and with a bit of salty,
to give this
crusty skin. That's super nice.
And also with masculine fishes, maybe not that fatty. It's nice. Okay, perfect. And the next one?
The next one is Michelsberg.
And in terms of price range, where could we find this wine? Maybe in
so we sell this wine here on the estate for 14 euros a bottle.
Okay.
So it's not super expensive, I think, for the quality you get. For the work we're putting in this wine and for the whole package, for this tradition, etc. I think it's a good price. It's a lot of value.
And handwork and biodynamic farming. So
yeah,
that's already in the nose. It has a warmer bouquet almost, and really riper fruits on the edge of exotic maybe.
This is one of my favorite vineyards. I mean, it's tough to say, but the thing is, in 1980, we planted this vineyard, and I was born in 1980, so it's my vineyard.
Wow, but also really even maybe riper acidity, maybe not so laser sharp, not this blady sensation. Wow, but really ripe. Almost this tangerine or sign. Or this Meyer lemon, this really riper and
Yeah.
deeper flowers. Really rich.
And you can feel a little bit of this minerality already. So
And what's
it's a problem, the phone, or?
Nah, it belongs to the terroir. I don't know. I think it's gone already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but how would you maybe define the terroir? Well, the terroir, the minerality, because I think it's really like a silver line, if it's real or not, or why do you feel it? Which vineyard, which soil?
The minerality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it always sounds nice if you describe a wine with its minerality, but not a lot of people really know what minerality really means.
Yeah.
To me, minerality has nothing to do with an aroma profile. For me, it's a feeling in your mouth, on your palate, which I have the same feeling if I eat a lot of salt or salty food. So it creates this mouth-watering effect. So I'm really getting hungry if I have a wine with a lot of minerality, and I definitely need food. So yeah, we have this effect mainly from in wines that grow on limestone and clay. Not so much in wines that we have from sandstones, which is interesting to see. Fuchsmantel for me was sharper, fresh. And here you get this minerality, so you feel the mouth watering.
And also maybe more full-bodied. For me, this one is more. It's not really the edges, but more on the mouth. Mouth feel.
It fills out your mouth without being boring.
Yeah.
And you're not getting tired. Again, this is something that stays animating.
Yeah, true. Do you also have a tradition what to eat with this wine?
Here we don't have a specific tradition like we have with Fuchsmantel, but this is a wine that we always serve definitely when we have family around us and we celebrate. So this is a wine that we use for special events. My wife, she used to work as a chef in a Michelin star restaurant here in Deidesheim, so she really enjoys to cook. With Michelsberg, we mainly use white meat. She prepares a very reduced sauce with mushrooms, and then she makes her own pasta, something like that. Saltimbocca goes well. Of course, you can have this Michelsberg also with a couple of fish dishes, Mediterranean food, but it needs a bit of creaminess also coming from the dish.
Yeah, I think so too. But also it's very versatile, so I could imagine a lot of food with this. But really on the, I would also go maybe with some gamey, like almost this heavier kind of meat, not only white, so not only this chicken, but maybe also, I don't know, maybe some duck or something.
Exactly. Yeah, some duck breast, with green beans. And we have a potato gratin, so we're getting hungry now.
Some cream fresh,
Can we stop for a second? Please. Because there's a client outside, and I think he wants to pick up some wine. I will help him out.
I don't want to. I really don't want to disturb if they want to take some wine.
Yeah, I'll take.
At this point, a customer has suddenly arrived to buy some wine goes from Alex and had our cellar visit soon thereafter, so please excuse for the swift ending. I also tasted a Pflüger Pinot Noir together with a Kemetner one from Kamptal, so check out the video on YouTube or on Instagram if you are interested in my unpleasant encounter with Alex's favorite red grape. If you like this episode, please leave a review on iTunes and get back to the channel on next Friday to hear from another great biodynamic winemaker, Johann Beurer from Württemberg. But till next Friday, cheers!